Welcome to your safe space, the podcast your partner, friends, parents, whoever thinks it's dirty. Don't have time to read books? Want to understand all the jokes in the TikToks? We got you, fam. We're the Spice Traders, and we deal in spicy books. I'm Katie, and I need it to make sense.
I'm Liz, and I'm hypercritical.
Before we get to today's episode, we want to encourage you to check out our Patreon, where we publish extra episodes every other week, as well as ad-free versions of our regular feed episodes. Also, any series we read past the first book, all that coverage is Patreon only, so think series like ACOTAR, Fourth Wing, Guild. Anyway, we really appreciate the support and encouragement to continue doing something we love and sharing it with you.
Thanks in advance for checking that out. As always, we start this episode with 3 things. First is a generic trigger warning. You can find specific triggers for this book in our show notes, so please check those out. We also use foul language and talk a lot about sex. If you have sensitivity to either of those things, our podcast probably isn't for you.
Second, our episodes talk about books, the whole book, nothing but the book, so help me goddess. If you don't want something spoiled, don't listen to this episode.
And finally, we acknowledge that a good book can hit you at the wrong time. Our views discussed in our episodes are our opinion, and we don't want to diminish the work or the talents of the authors in our community. That said, we have some notes.
What are we talking about today, girl?
Today we're talking about The Unrequited by Saffron A. Kent. This was published in 2017, and it is a standalone. This book is 340 pages long, and that's a midi. I will say it does fly by. Spoilers now, it wasn't my favorite book, but I really didn't have a problem finishing it. Like, it was pretty easy to read. I was curious about what was going to happen. Which I will say. The cover, I actually really like the cover. When I first downloaded it, I hated it because it's the whole real people on the cover thing.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it. It grew on me. It's this girl with dark hair and purple lips, and we will get to the fucking purple of it all.
I can't.
But she's wearing this like white dress nightgown, and like you can't see her whole face. You can just see like her mouth. Which honestly, I don't mind. It's pretty like, it kind of gives the same vibe as the Bodice Rippers. Like, it doesn't tell you anything about the book, but I kind of like it. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason I get like Runaway Bride vibes from it. I don't know why.
Yeah, or like Princess Bride vibes. Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't bother me. Like, I think the thing about people on covers is like, I tend to not mind them when it's like not a whole face, because like it has the Batman effect, right? Like, it doesn't precede what the characters look like, and so it still like leaves something to the imagination.
Exactly.
And this one doesn't have the egregious like bodice ripping like airbrushed abs or anything like that. She's just like a regular person.
Yeah, and she's just sort of like crouched over. Crouch makes it sound super creepy, but like the way she's sitting, I don't know, there's something kind of artistic about it. Crouch was like
yeah, she's not a gremlin. It's a good pose. Like I liked the cover. I think it was nice. And to your point, it could be anything. This book could be about it could be a self-help book. Like it tells me nothing about what's in it.
Exactly, which is kind of nice. If you were to like read this in public in a real like paper format, no one would know what I was reading, because like this book is dirty.
It is dirty. Yeah, I mean,
maybe not in my favorite way, but like it's dirty.
It's got something.
So those are my thoughts. Let's get into it, because I have many other thoughts.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, so you said that this is a standalone, and all I have to say is thank God. It is on it is on KU, which is great.
Thank God. Also,
thank God I didn't have to pay for it. This is a midi, so like all of our midis, we're gonna break it into 2. This is going to be part 1 of our coverage, and part 1 is going to cover chapters 1 through 15. And we're going to do our best to make this funny, because it was a bit of a tough read for both of us. I'm just going to preface it by saying that.
For a myriad of reasons. Like, I also want to preface it by saying I might be really mean at a few parts. So just call back to our intro that like it wasn't for us. It might be for someone. And like, kudos to Saffron, which is a fucking awesome name for
honestly
having a book published. But Saffron Kent is a badass name.
It is. And so one side quest on names really quick. Maybe this is my naivete still coming through, but I just kind of take all of these authors' names at face value. I'm just like, oh man, Saffron Kent is such an awesome name to be born with. I wonder how many of these men and women that we read, that's not their real name.
I think a a lot of them. Like, for example, we always reference T. Kingfisher. I think her name is like Ursula or something.
It is. Yeah, that's not her real name.
No, but I just take it as like, wow, your parents are really cool. Like, they named you Saffron? Like,
right.
No, they didn't. Probably not. I don't know. Maybe they did. Sorry, not. Saffron, if that's your true name. It's an amazing name. If you picked it, amazing pick.
If that is your true name.
If that is your true name.
Anyway, badass name. Fake doesn't make it. Pen name or not. Nom de plume or government. Still awesome.
Government.
Anyway. Yeah. So we're going to jump right in. This story is told from a dual point of view. First person from both Layla Robinson, which is our female main character, and Thomas Abrams, which is our male main character. It alternates throughout, but it is mostly from Layla's point of view. One note about the sections from Thomas's point of view, they are titled, quote, The Bard, and I cannot tell you how many years into the future I rolled myself.
Yeah. I rolled my eyes right out of my skull the first time I saw that. And I was like, I don't need this.
Actually, the first time I read it, I was like, the Bard? Who the fuck is the Bard? Is Layla
Me
the
too,
Bard now?
Because it doesn't say Thomas. And I was like, what?
What are we playing? Dungeons and Dragons? You fancy yourself a Bard? Okay, Shakespeare, calm down.
That's what I was picturing too. Because like, okay, he's a poet. We'll get into the poetry of it all. But like... No, we just didn't need that.
Yeah. So, okay. It's also worth noting that this is a student-teacher romance. So if that's a thing for you, you're in luck. But if it's not, proceed with caution. All of the things that we say at the beginning of the podcast. Anyway.
Yeah. And Layla is over 18.
Yeah. Everybody's an adult. She's at least but 18. It is.
Yeah.
Look, it is what it is. We'll get into it. So we open with Layla, who is sitting in the office of her school guidance counselor, Cara Montgomery, who Layla is very clear is a therapist operating under the thin cover of quote unquote guidance counselor, and she really hates it. It's unclear to me if she hates Cara as a person or the fact that she's doing this thing or both.
I think both.
I think it's also both.
Also, I immediately chose violence. I went into this book with an open mind. I was really excited. As soon as they introduced the idea of a guidance counselor at college who was functioning as both a therapist and an academic advisor, I was like, that's not a thing.
Yeah, I really struggle with, and I don't know if these like concepts come from like people's lived experiences elsewhere, but at least in my lived experience, like I didn't have a fucking guidance counselor conversation that lasted more than 20 minutes, and it certainly didn't happen in college.
No, like I do academic advising, and it's literally a 15-minute appointment where they come with their schedule for the next term, and I say yes or no.
Done. Which is honestly kind of refreshing. I never had to do that in college. I just like registered for what I wanted, and then like it automatically told me if that was like in line with my major or whatever the fuck.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it was nice. I didn't have to talk to people, which, as you know, is my favorite thing.
Yeah, agreed.
So anyway, we digress. This is when we get the first real sense of Layla's voice, and she's impulsive, sarcastic. She's self-aware in a way that she can't quite act on, and that feels very much like an underdeveloped college kid, in my opinion.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, she's very juvenile. So like we said at the top, they're all adults, but for example, and this is getting ahead of myself, but spoilers, there's a sex scene later, and she keeps referring to her tummy. And I was like, don't use the word tummy in a sex scene. You're at least 18. Like, your tummy? We're talking about tummy time? Like, get out of here. And that's
tummy time.
Like, a lot of her thoughts are very juvenile.
Yeah, she infantilizes herself, and it doesn't help when our male main character does that as well. So, like, she talks about her tummy. There's this whole, like, kind of back and forth about, like, how he's going to, like, show her what it means to be a grown-up. Like, it's just kind of gross a little bit. And I don't think it would feel as gross if I thought that she was a fully formed adult.
Well, and I think what makes it gross for me is they have these conversations, and like they are in the midst of sexual scenes, but it's not presented in the way of it being like a kink. So like,
right.
And I mean that as if it was a kink, then like when you end the scene, you go back to being functional humans. Like, people who want to call their partner daddy. Like, okay, but then once that scene is over, I'm going to call you your name. Like, you're not in this, like, patriarchal thing for me. This, it's all the time. It seems like she doesn't actually change. There's no end to the scene. It's just who they are.
They're just fully bought in.
Yeah, and I don't that made me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, and like it makes me uncomfortable because they're fully bought in, but then she also doubles down on it with her frankly like unrefined thought processes. Like we'll go through her actions in general, but she is very just immature.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I was the pinnacle of maturity when I was her age at like whatever the fuck age she is, 20 or 21, but like it just feels like she's younger, like 16 or 17.
Yeah, which is how she acts. And
yeah.
It's just not my favorite thing.
Anyway, we digress again. Kara.
We will a lot.
back to the guidance counselor. Kara wants Layla to try some electives this semester, specifically writing. And Layla resists this because she doesn't like reading and she doesn't think that she's a writer. And immediately I'm like, okay, so what exactly is your personality?
Okay, so I'm going to derail this a lot. I had a thought at this point in the book and in the next subsequent chapters. She's at college. She doesn't like reading. She hates books. She doesn't like writing. And I realized immediately that I was like, okay, I like the student teacher thing, but I want the student to be Hermione. I want it to be like straight A student, almost teacher's pet, like really cares about education.
Yes.
And then we get Layla and I was like, this isn't the vibe. Like I want the like straight A student and teacher thing, not this like I'm a delinquent and I'm only here because it was this or rehab, basically.
Right. Yeah, like Layla very much reads like somebody who should either just stay as a trust fund baby and like not get a higher education degree or go into like trade school or something.
Exactly.
Because like she doesn't like not only does she not like reading or think that she's a writer, she doesn't have interests at all, actually. Like she doesn't have that's why I mean like she doesn't have a personality. She feels very underdeveloped. Like it reads like a teenager who's just like, I'm bored. And it's like, okay, well, why don't you fill your time with something that you like? And that's when you start like developing hobbies and like, I'm into Legos or painting or like being outside or sports or whatever. She doesn't have those things. It's like she skipped that step.
Yeah. Like you don't have to like reading or writing, but to your point, do you like sports? Do you like math?
Yeah.
Do you like history?
Right.
Like you gotta like something.
Yeah. And so like to your point, I also wanted to be like a Hermione in the student. And it almost feels like in this particular story, like the student teacher thing was just convenient. It was just like a way to make another way to make their love taboo.
Exactly. Very that.
So Kara's planted this seed that she hopes will flourish. And Layla's like, fine, whatever. But the meeting is over. And so Layla starts to leave. But on her way out, she blurts out a telling question. She says, quote, "Do you think he's doing okay up there? Do you think he misses me?" We don't know who he is yet, but there's clearly a longing in that line and history that hooked me. And I gotta say, like, I didn't really see where this was going. I thought it would be like straightforward assholery, but that wasn't the case. And it was a pleasant surprise. And it's one of the things that kept me reading.
I was surprised by a lot of things in this book. And I will say, like, I didn't really like a lot of the execution, but I'm not hard opposed to reading other things by this author because I was surprised by quite a few turning points. Like, I don't really like how the way some things were handled, but certain things I was like when we find out Caleb's deal, I didn't see that coming at all.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so like our gripes, I guess, with the characters themselves, I want to be super clear. It's not that the characters were poorly written. They were written exactly how we interpreted them pretty well.
They were well written.
They just weren't our cup of tea.
Yeah, they're just annoying characters,
right.
Which I do think is maybe part of the point. I mean, like, Saffron Kent probably does not want to be interviewed by us because I'm not going to be super complimentary about this book, but I would love to pick her mind to be like, did you intend to make these unlikable people because it is human?
Right.
They're very human people.
Yeah. And that is fascinating. Like, we've read poorly written books before, and this is not one of them.
No.
So anyway, we find out that Layla is a student at a small liberal arts college in Connecticut called Whitmore, which she hates, along with Winter and pretty much everything about her current situation. In fact, I'm not sure that there's anything in her life that she does like except a purple fur coat that she mentions every chance she fucking gets.
She's obsessed with purple. I don't know when we find out, but I'm going to tell you now. Her eyes are purple. And
her eyes are fucking purple. And she doesn't even ride a dragon.
She doesn't even ride a dragon. She's a regular person. And my immediate thought was that I think at this point through the books we've read, to me, purple eyes are like the kiss of death. Like, it's just, it's never good. It's all downhill from the purple eyes.
Oh, it's purple eyes. It's like, this is like Gothic Hannah with better character development and not the spooky Gothic vibes.
Yes, it's exactly that, but more well written, I will say.
Yeah, but the main characters are essentially the same. No hobbies, purple eyes, dark hair, trust fund.
Yep.
So, did we mention she's a trust fund baby? She's from New York City and misses it desperately. The reason that Layla's in Connecticut and not in New York City is that she was given a choice: college or a youth rehabilitation center in New Jersey, which, as she says, is not a choice at all. And the reason that she needed those options was because she was spiraling out after Caleb Whitmore. He is the he from her question, and he is her stepbrother, or former stepbrother, because her mom and his dad divorced, but Layla very much sees it as like once a stepbrother, always a stepbrother, because they grew up together and she has no memory of life before him. It's like he's this meteor that crashed into her and has altered the trajectory of her life permanently, and she's just a passive participant in that experience.
Yeah.
One weird thing that she mentions is that they met at their parents' wedding when she was 5 and he was 6. Like, that was the first time they met, and she fell in love with him then and has never stopped. And I'm just like, what? I always think it's such a weird literary choice to add a detail like this, because when does that ever really happen like that?
I don't think 5 or 6 year olds are capable of falling in love. And I also think it was a weird choice because it really just kind of adds more to the like new layers about the taboo thing. I think adding a detail of when they met would have been more appropriate if she was like, he's my stepbrother, but we met when I was 15.
Right.
And then I fell in love. Like, okay. But like, you were 5?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
And I'm with you. I don't think they can fall into romantic love. I think that it's totally reasonable that she comes to love him as a brother, but like, I mean, I don't know. I don't have siblings, so I can't really speak to it, but it just feels weird that she was like immediately like, we're going to get married. Okay.
Yeah. And we almost get like a cut scene from the wedding. Not quite, but like a weird flashback almost. And it's just very strange. Like, he doesn't seem to like her because he's 6. The whole thing was so weird. But then, okay, so there are a couple weird timelines in this book that don't really matter. But she mentions that her mom is on like her 3rd or 4th marriage. That's not to Caleb's father anymore. So like, how long did you really live together?
Right. Because she would have had to like marry, divorce in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But
or 2 years maybe.
Caleb's always like, unless I misunderstood, because then she wants Caleb to like go to Layla's stepfather's birthday, but I don't think that's Caleb's father.
It's not. Well, and so yeah, I mean, to your point, it's like who had custody of Caleb? It almost feels like she divorced Caleb's dad, but like Caleb stayed with them.
Yeah. And like,
which would be
if you're
so
gonna
weird.
give me, that'd be so weird. But if you're gonna give me this much detail, we say this all the time, like, don't give me this little tidbit that's just gonna give me more questions and then not answer those questions.
Because now
don't
digging.
Give me extraneous information. Yeah, because right. Now I need to know. Whereas if you never mentioned it, I could just speculate and be like, okay, they met, whatever. Their parents were married at some point.
Right. And then they got divorced at some point. Cool.
Yeah, done.
But even, I mean, okay, we're gonna get into it really quick, but like even the thing that made them kind of like fall apart happened like 2 years ago. And so it made it seem like they were still living together at that point. Like as a family.
Yeah. But now she's like 2 husbands later. I don't understand.
Yeah. Anyway, we digress.
We super digress. It's going to happen a lot. I'm going to try to rein it in.
I mean, or don't. So okay, so the 2-year thing, let's get into that. The reason for Caleb and Layla's estrangement is that 2 years before our story starts, at a party, Layla got Caleb drunk and high without telling him. She gave him what she told him was a cigarette, but was actually pot, and then slept with him, hoping that this would make him fall in love with her. She calls it rape, and I would agree.
I would agree. And what really pissed me off is the line, I highlighted it, is like, I raped him, ... kind of. No, you can't kind of do that. And my note is like, explain that. You can't say that.
No.
You did or you didn't.
Yeah. And of course, this didn't make him fall in love with her. And tellingly, he left for Harvard like the next day, which was a month early, and they haven't spoken since. So you're not going to tell me that was kind of rape. It seems like he's pretty broken up about it.
Yeah, that seems like a big old problem to me.
But this is the part that I'm talking about with like, it seems like they were living together as a family, because this is why like she started spiraling. But then also her mother like never really forgave her for this, for making quote Caleb go away.
Yeah. But if they weren't still an active family,
then why would that be the case?
Why would that be the case if they didn't live together anymore?
Also, if your mom doesn't know exactly, like, how does your mom think that you made him go away if she doesn't know exactly what happened?
Right. I had that thought too. You can't blame me if you don't know.
If you weren't in the room, unless, I mean, her mom is just like a piece of work and blames her for everything. But like, it felt very much like everybody knew what happened.
It did feel like that. Like, did Caleb call the whole family and was like, beat it up, she raped me. Don't call me.
Your daughter is nuts. Okay, I'm leaving. Lose my number.
She is, though.
She is actually nuts. So, as we mentioned, in the aftermath, Layla spiraled, shoplifting, crashing her mom's parties, drunk driving, etc., and ended up where she is now, at college in Connecticut. She stares at Caleb's photo on her phone constantly, but tells herself she's fine because she hasn't called him, so she's definitely in recovery.
Her entire logic is illogical.
Yeah, she needs help. Like, I mean, for somebody who's like so quote unquote meta or like self-analyzing, she's not very good at it.
No, not at all. And we'll get to it, but when like she meets the mailman character, she's like, oh, he's unattainable. Just what I need. I'm like, what? No.
What the fuck are you talking about? You need to get away from other people and be okay with your own thoughts, being alone and not having somebody else as the object of your sole attention.
Yeah, because she is obsessive. Like, she is a psychopath in so many ways.
Right. And we'll get to it when we get to it, but I'm convinced that she doesn't actually care about the individual. She's just in love with the idea of being unrequitedly in love with somebody.
Me too. Yeah, I'll save it for part 2. But yeah, I don't think she actually cares.
So on one sleepless night, she ends up following a couple in the park because she wants to see what requited love looks like, which is creepy.
Fucking creeper cat. She like follows them out of a coffee shop, like for blocks. She just stalks them.
Yep, in her purple fucking fur coat.
Which sounds hideous. I'm sorry.
She ends up wandering. She ends up leaving them, and she wanders into the university park and finds, quote, her bench under a tree, but finds it occupied. I didn't understand why it was her bench.
It sounds like it's very much his bench.
It sounds like it's very much a public bench. Like, I don't.
Yeah. And also, the way this was written, it didn't really sound like it. Like, it seemed like she just stumbled upon this bench and was like, I like it here. Not like she typically ends up there.
Right. Well, I thought it was going to be pivotal to the story of like, that's the last time she saw Caleb, or like something that, but it's just like something that she branded as hers.
Yeah. Or it's pivotal to Thomas, actually.
Yeah. He has a reason for it to be, quote, his bench.
Yeah. She's just a creeper cat.
Anyway, so it's occupied, and it's occupied by a tall man in all black with long, dark, wavy hair sitting alone, smoking a cigarette. So Layla hides, of course, doing the only natural thing, and watches this man.
She's so creepy.
She's so enamored and makes up fantasies in her head about who he is and why he's so melancholy, but he ultimately walks away before she interacts with him or we find out who he is.
Who could guess where he'll show up?
Who could have known?
Which I was fine with. Whatever, it's fine.
I was fine with whatever. I didn't have any problems with the story besides the fact that Layla is clearly fucking undiagnosed with something.
Insane. Oh yeah, maybe a couple somethings.
Maybe a couple somethings. So we cut to the first day of the new semester. Layla wanders into the north side of campus to the bookstore. She's there because Kara told her to try writing, so she's looking at books, I guess, and she's killing time before class.
Sure.
Sure. But in quintessential Manic Pixie Dream Girl fashion, she starts shelving books incorrectly. F's in the G section, for example.
Just for funsies? Like, what?
I just, she gives some, completely asinine justification for her behavior. She's like, this is going to, introduce chaos and whimsy into the world. I'm like, that's exactly what a Manic Pixie Dream Girl would say.
Yeah, because it won't. It's going to, at most, mildly irritate someone, which is just rude.
Right, and it's probably the poor person that has to put it all back together and get paid $7 an hour to do so.
Yeah, and get in trouble because they're probably going to get blamed for shelving it incorrectly in the first place.
Right. Anyway, during her escapades, she notices that the man from the bench has appeared, and she's struck again by how beautiful and magnetic he is in real life in the daytime.
Whoa.
He's just reading a book, and suddenly he's badgered by some other college girls who clearly want his, number or whatever, and Layla feels weirdly jealous. But no fear, gentle reader, this guy is a jerk to everyone, so the other girls leave.
He's such an asshole.
He doubles down on his assholery because he offhandedly remarks to Layla that her attempt at chaos gremlining is mid at best, and then he leaves.
I actually appreciated that because someone needed to call her out. You're not even really doing the thing you say you're doing.
Right. He was just he suggested something even more asinine, and I was just like, you two deserve each other. Holy shit.
I know. He's like, you should put the F's in the R's. That would really get them.
Okay. What?
I don't know.
So Layla, being the MPDG she is, follows him to the arts building, which is called the Labyrinth. Why is it called the Labyrinth? We never find out. The building is chaotic and alive, and Layla is immediately intrigued by it. She's intrigued by it in the way that she thinks that she might like trying on being a writer for once in her life, and so she follows Loverboy into class and sits down. She has no idea what this class is and obviously isn't registered for, but she just has to be near this stranger.
Again, I just feel like you already set up that her guidance counselor was like, take a writing class. She could naturally be in this class, but we have to go down this whole thing where she just sits in on a class that she's not even registered. It's so unnecessary. She could be in this class for good reason. And then I have a problem later, but we'll come back to it. Okay.
I mean, this just feels like I'm with you. This whole setup of being randomly in this class, fine. You could, and she waits so long to actually register for the class. I'm just you could, to your point, have it you're willfully making your life and the story more complicated.
Yes.
Anyway, this is where we learn the dude's name is Thomas Abrams, and he is a professor of poetry. His class is called Anesthesia, which is also the name of Tommy's award-winning debut collection of poems. Great. I love that he's a renowned poetry person, but he's only got one book.
Right. I don't know how renowned you can be. Also, it sounded like you said Anastasia instead of anesthesia.
I mean, that would have been a better class name.
What? It would have been. I just had to call it out because that was probably just me not hearing it. I was looking at my notes to see where I wanted to complain next. But yeah, how can you be is he a poet laureate? What do you mean? I guess I don't really understand poetry awards, but one book doesn't seem like you're that renowned.
Yeah, I mean, so, okay, Layla does end up meeting two people, Emma and Dylan, and they're super stan fangirls of Thomas. And they tell her after class that Tommy's kind of a genius. He's the youngest recipient of the McLeod Genius Grant, which makes it a big deal. He started the Labyrinth Journal, which, to be fair, is just a college newspaper. And he is, as Emma says, magic.
Oh.
So does that answer your question, or?
I mean, yeah, sure. Sure.
I'm still a little bit confused. I don't know what the, I wanted to look up.
Is that a real thing?
So there's nothing called the McLeod one, but it might be a nod to the MacArthur Fellowship, which is commonly known as the Genius Grant.
Okay, so I could see that.
Yeah. Fine, whatever. But anyway, Layla realizes that she isn't the only one who's hot for teacher. Competition.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
But I will say, he's a fucking asshole this whole class too. He's not a good teacher.
No, and he clearly doesn't want to be a teacher. Like he resents the fact that he's there and that there are students there talking at him and asking him questions and wanting to understand his craft. And I'm just like, this reminded me of all of the other student teacher romances that we've read where for some reason the male main character just shouldn't be a professor.
I don't know what that is. It makes me want to write my own where like they're a good teacher. Again, I want it to be Hermione and like a really good teacher. I think that's a much more interesting story.
It is a much more interesting story because then it's like they're both breaking the rules, which is something that they don't usually do.
Yeah.
Ooh, I just gave myself chills thinking about it.
It sounds so good.
Yeah, we should totally write that. Anyway.
Okay, I'm in. Let's go.
We could write that like tomorrow.
We totally could.
We could. Okay.
Let's start.
We'll table that.
Yep. TBD, because I want to do that now. 2026. Yep.
Yeah. So Layla obviously thinks that Tommy Boy is magic too, and she immediately goes back to the bookstore and buys his book. And of course, Tommy shows up there too. And he sees Layla sniffing the pages of his book, which, okay, cool. And their exchange is sharp and funny and immediately charged. And he's rude like he was to those other girls and like in class. But Layla gives as good as she gets. So they're both rude to each other. But he ends up telling her that he knows that she's not really registered for the class and tells her not to come back. Out of spite, she does officially register for the class.
So, and this is where I might rephrase this because like she goes to I think like 2 or 3 more classes and he yells at her in class.
Yeah.
And after class says like not to come back. And then she comes back, he gets through a whole class period. And then at the end she's like, "Oh no, I'm actually in your class." And to me, I'm like, if I told you not to come to my class because you weren't registered and you showed up the next day, I would have kicked you out.
Right.
Like, I feel like that whole reveal that she registered should have been in class when he should have like tried to kick her out and she goes like, "Nope, I'm registered now."
Yeah.
Instead of this, like, he lets her sit through a whole nother class and then tries to berate her and she's like, "Haha, here's my pink slip."
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. It's like, it would have been more of a gotcha moment for Thomas, and I think it would have given him more ammunition to be perturbed.
Yeah. Where it felt like a miss to me. It's not a big deal, but it felt like a miss. Also, yeah. I think it's actually it's interesting writing. I don't know if it's intentional, but Saffron A. Kent does this a couple times where like the reveal to the reader is late too. Like she goes to class the next day and like we don't even know she's registered officially until she reveals it to Thomas. Mm-hmm. And there's another scene later, we'll get into it. I'll save it for then. But like there's some weird reveals that are almost confusing, but I also think they're kind of interesting.
Yeah, I did like that because one of the things that I will say, despite the fact that I think both of these characters are incredibly unlikable, I really enjoyed that it was consistently not just that they were unlikable, but they were both unreliable as fuck.
Yes.
Because they both see each other as being like not that. I wouldn't say that they see each other as being like truthful. Like Layla doesn't see herself as being truthful and Thomas doesn't either, but like both of them see themselves as being like right.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it makes a really interesting dynamic when you get their perspectives about each other.
Right.
When they're both so unreliable in reality.
Totally.
Which is really interesting. That's what I'm saying. Like, this book didn't do it for me, but I'm curious to read more by the author because I like some of the things that she does.
Yeah. It's a well executed book about terrible people.
Yeah,
I guess. Anyway, so then we get our first chapter from Tommy's perspective, and his sections are called The Bard, as I mentioned, and they illustrate what a sad sack of narcissism he really is.
I was just gonna say he's terrible. I don't like him at all.
He showed us exactly who he was in the first scene, like where he spoke, and like Layla should have believed him.
Yeah. And it doesn't really change later ever. Like, that's who he is. He's not hiding some tender heart. Not really. No. I don't believe the tender heart we see in the last chapter.
I don't either. That's just him, like, performing. Anyway, we'll get there. So we learn that Thomas grew up in the same small town of this college with an absent, grief-consumed father. His father was also a poet who spent his entire life writing unpublished poems about Thomas's mother, who died the day that Thomas was born, ostensibly from complications. Thomas left as soon as he could and vowed never to return. But he's back now because his wife, Hadley, wanted to move here, and so he gave up everything, his poetry, his life in the city, everything, to try to fix their marriage. Why is their marriage broken? Why did she want to move back here? No idea yet. All we know is that Hadley barely looks at Tommy these days, though to be fair, she barely looks at Nicky either, their newborn son. Tommy is just trying to hold it all together while his wife slips further and further away, clearly suffering from postpartum depression that is undiagnosed.
Listen, we talked about this in our debrief, but we both clocked this immediately. So, like, we see Hadley, we see how she responds, and my note says, I need to know his wife's deal because it sounds like postpartum depression to me, and A, that's not an excuse to cheat, and B, how does no one else see this?
Yeah, like, it's pretty clear. Like, if I saw this woman out in public and I saw the way that she was interacting with her baby, like, I would clock it, and I would probably try to have a conversation with one of them and be like, yo, is everything good here?
Yeah, like, there's something wrong here.
Clearly. And it's, look, totally normal, totally natural, but it does need to be treated like.
Yeah.
Alti, no shade.
Exactly. And, like, nothing to be ashamed of, but Thomas should be ashamed for not doing shit about it and just being like, it's me, I'm the problem. No, she has a hormonal imbalance that's going to get worse.
Well, and he just uses it to get, like, as another vehicle for, like, being a martyr. And I will say this again when it comes up, like, more salient, but I think it's an early indicator of him not actually giving a flying fuck about the people around him. He just collects people around him to make himself feel the way that he wants to feel.
Yes, very that. And, like, you guys know where the story is going. Obviously, Layla and Thomas are going to be things. So that's why I said, like, it's not an excuse to cheat. And it's sort of set up in that way of, like, oh, she doesn't look at me how she used to anymore. She doesn't care about our son. So I'm going to go fuck this 19-year-old. Okay, that'll help.
Cool. Yeah, that'll make it totally better. Anyway, Tommy's been offered the job of teaching as a favor from his old friend Jake, the dean of the Creative Arts College, even though Tommy hates teaching, which is nepotism at its finest.
Yeah, and he's bad at it.
He's not qualified, he's bad at it, and he hates it.
Jake,
which
you're
just
an idiot.
like okay, but could you imagine if, like, you were struggling and your partner, like, there was something in your marriage that you needed to fix, and so you were like, okay, we're going to move to this town and you're going to give up all of those things that you love, and then you're just going to take this teaching job, and then it's so clear that not only do you hate it, but you're also bad at it. Like, how do you think that's going to fix anything?
It's not.
God damn it.
But he thinks he's doing all the right things. Where he could ask his wife a fucking question on, hey, why don't you look at our son?
Literally any conversation that doesn't have to do with, like, why don't you love me?
Yeah.
You're a 42-year-old man. Shut the fuck up.
Right. Like, how about have an adult conversation? Also, when someone asks for a divorce, maybe say yes. We'll come back to that. But, like,
we'll come back to that.
All could have been avoided.
Anyway, Thomas privately admits to us that he can't stop thinking about Layla, her voice, her wild energy, aka her manic pixie dream girl vibe. She's becoming his muse even though he's trying not to think about her at all, and he does not like that. Poor man.
Okay, girl.
Anyway, back to said muse, Layla. She attends Tommy's class again, and this time he calls on her, demanding she read something. So she reads a poem that she wrote about watching someone from a distance, loving them without being seen. And it's clearly written for Thomas, and it's clearly very bad. So he tears it apart in front of the class.
To be fair, he hasn't taught them how to write poetry.
No, he hasn't taught them anything. Like, this class is so poorly structured. Like, yeah. I would give it a failing grade if I was evaluating this course.
I would too. You can't teach them nothing and then berate them for trying.
Like, this is not... Okay, poetry writing should not start with, let's write a couple of poems and then reinvent the wheel before I teach you any of the craft or theory around poetry writing that's already been established.
Maybe expose them to some poetry first.
What? Like, come on.
Shocking.
So Layla goes to Thomas's office afterward, and she's furious, and they have another charged confrontation that honestly doesn't go anywhere. And I think this is where the reveal happens that she's registered for the class, actually.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah.
Because again, you said don't come back. She came back, and you don't even confront her. Like, you let her just do the whole class. I don't understand.
Not only do you not confront her, you like call on her. I just don't get it. Whatever.
I don't get it.
On Layla's way out of the office, she swipes a book from his shelf.
She's a kleptomaniac.
She's a kleptomaniac. She's a manic pixie dream girl. Of course she's a kleptomaniac.
They
all are. The book is called A Lover's Discourse, Fragments by Roland Barthes, which is Barcelona. And inside, she finds a note from Hadley, which says, quote, "To Thomas, hope you enjoy reading this piece of literature, again, that no sane person can understand. Love, Hadley." Which honestly is not something I would write to somebody that I was going to... It's just so, like, biting.
It's rude.
Yeah. Here's this book that I know you love that nobody should love. Have fun.
And it's also a book about love. And I love you, but fuck you and your taste.
But not about, I don't love you in this way. This is weird poetry shit.
Because you could even say, like, no one understands it, but, like, I love how you understand it. Like, you could make that romantic and still say the same thing. Not just, like, here's this thing that you've read 100 times that I hate.
But now it has an inscription from me that tells you that I hate it.
Yeah, but that I love you, I guess, maybe.
Sure. Layla looks inside and she finds words Thomas has underlined, specifically the word unrequited, next to a passage about the person who waits and waits and waits and loves without return. In this, she recognizes herself, and she immediately knows that she and Tommy are meant to be together because they both have unrequited love. She for Caleb and he for Hadley. To which I say, false.
Absolutely false. And this, like, her logic is so flawed. There's a scene in here where she goes to Kara, whatever her name is, and is like, I found the perfect man. I can't have him, and that's why it's perfect.
And Kara's like, wait, what?
Yeah, and I'm like, wait, what? And she's like saying that she and Thomas are soulmates, but like not in the way that they should be together because they should never be together, but we're soulmates. Like, what are you saying?
What on earth are you saying? But this is like a perfect illustration of like Layla and Tommy, honestly, don't actually, like, it could be anybody. It could be a cardboard box with a heartbeat. It doesn't matter who the person is. She's obsessed with this idea of unrequited love. Like, he is obsessed with, like, the way that people make him feel, not necessarily, like, growing a genuine, loving relationship with somebody.
No, and that, we'll get to at the end, but, like, this love story doesn't make sense to me because they don't know each other.
No, not at all.
Like, they've had 3 conversations and they've all been, like, biting and just about class.
Right. Well, and like, okay, I know it's a little hypocritical for us to sit here and say they don't know each other because that's many of the books that we cover. I get it. I think this one hits a little bit different because like there's a kid involved and also they're both terrible.
Yeah, it does hit different because of that. Like when it's fantasy, I think you get the element of like we know they're going to have a trauma bond, and not in this way.
This isn't a trauma bond. They forced this on themselves.
Yeah.
So in high Manic Pixie Dream Girl fashion, Layla starts going to Thomas's house at night and watching him through the window.
She's a legitimate stalker. She's obsessed with him.
She's obsessed with this idea, and he happens to be at the center of it.
Yes, because we get little snippets about how she was obsessed with Caleb too. Like, we get these weird one-liners about how she like stole his underwear once.
Yeah.
So she's just an obsessive stalker, and it doesn't matter who it is. She just needs a target.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she just needs an object for her psychosis. Honestly. Yeah. Anyway, one of these nights, she sees Thomas pacing, frustrated, angry, barely holding it together. She also sees Hadley in a flash of a nightgown, and she moves like a ghost. She sees that they speak in separate directions, their bodies in the same room, but completely apart. So the next day, when she sees Thomas and Hadley together at the coffee shop with Nikki, their son, Layla again notices the way that they are completely at odds. Specifically, Hadley's boots are pointed toward the door, while Thomas's are pointed toward her. And she draws connections with Thomas's book, Anesthesia. And she realizes that it's about his unrequited love for Hadley and his suffering therein.
Yeah.
Eye roll.
Sure. Yeah, leave these people alone. They have their own problems, and you need to go to therapy.
Leave these people alone, but also Thomas, like... Just because you're in unrequited love with somebody doesn't mean that you should be with them and continue to suffer. Like, that's just what you want. You want to be seen as a martyr. And so you are doing that.
And it's not fair to you or Hadley or your child. Also, speaking about Nikki, Layla feels this odd connection with this infant and like bonds with him. And we see them bond a few times. And like, she calls Nikki a friend. I'm like, this is a 7-month-old, like, and not your 7-month-old. Like, that's weird, girl.
Yeah, and like I could on the one hand appreciate treating a baby like a person because it is, but on the other hand, like, it's weird that you're banging his dad and you're bonding. It's like you're trying to be his replacement mom and you don't know this kid. Like, you don't actually know anything about taking care of a baby, which I guess doesn't matter because they have a nanny, but it was so odd.
It was odd. And like, okay, you could be sweet to him. I mean, yeah, treat infants like people. I just don't understand why she was even comfortable enough to like approach Thomas and his child when like he doesn't appear to like you.
He doesn't appear to like you. And also, if I saw, that's like me seeing a coworker I like barely talk to out in public with like their spouse and their baby. I just don't like toddle over and be like, oh, what a cute baby. Like, no, what are you doing?
No. And she like gives the baby her hat to chew on. It's so weird.
Okay, not only does she give the baby her hat, she gives her baby or gives Nikki her purple fur hat to chew on.
I don't.
Have we mentioned she's a trust fund baby?
Should be chewed on.
No,
she brings this baby like 4 hats. Also, by the way.
Yeah, it's like fox fur hat. Like, just Jesus Christ, it's not a baby toy. Okay,
no,
it's fine.
Anyway, it's fine.
So then we get more of Thomas's point of view, and things come into focus a little bit more. He tells us that Hadley wanted a divorce once before because Tommy was too focused on his work, his perspective, but more likely than not, he was probably just an asshole.
Yeah, he says that like he was writing and just didn't notice that she literally left the house for like 3 days. I can't imagine that was a one-time thing that prompted asking for a divorce.
No, and to me, that's not you being too focused on work. That's you not being engaged with your partner, which is a different thing.
Yeah. Like a whole other level of obsession and not noticing her. And then like she asks for divorce and he basically says, no.
I can change. Let's not.
But I'm not even going to ask you what I need to change. I'm just going to assume it's work.
Right, exactly. So that happened. And then Hadley gets pregnant and nearly didn't tell him she was just going to get an abortion. But Thomas found out because he found a discarded pregnancy test. And And then they have this conversation where she says, like, look, I don't want a baby. It's not the right time. But Thomas, like, begs her to keep this baby and promises to change. And this is when he gives up his writing career and decides that he's going to move them back to her hometown and take this teaching job. But he tells us that it didn't work because she still doesn't love him and he knows that she doesn't.
It's kind of the quintessential, like, let's have a baby and it'll fix our relationship. But you're
No, girl.
adding an even worse, because that doesn't work anyway. But you're adding a worse layer because you're making someone have a baby who doesn't want it.
Right. Well, and I think it's in this passage too, where it's indicated that Hadley didn't want to move back here. It was just something that he assumed, to your point about, like, have a fucking conversation.
Yeah.
Because she's like, oh, is that why you moved us back here to take this job? Like, did you just unilaterally make these decisions? Like, what the fuck, actually?
It's so strange. And, like, I'm not going to blame Hadley at all for any of her choices. I mean, I think she's painted to be the villain in some strange ways, or this just, like, non-entity. But part of me is like, girl, you should have just left.
You should have just left. Yeah. I mean, Hadley's painted as the villain here, but in reality, I think she's really the victim of this story.
She is the victim. I think she's literally trapped.
Yeah, I think she is too. So Tommy tells us that she watches Hadley turn away from him and from Nikki, unable to bond with their son, and doesn't know how to fix it or whether to tell anyone. Susan, the nanny, who raised Thomas as a child, is the one who eventually suggests that something might be medically wrong with Hadley, like, I don't know, postpartum depression. But
Shocking.
Thomas refuses to hear it. He
Why?
must fix literally everything about him and their relationship. He is the reason for her melancholy. He must be the one to fix it through prostration and self-flagellation. Like, such a narcissist.
He's such a narcissist. And, like, I mean, he's not wrong. He is the reason. Yes, it's hormonal, but she asked for a divorce. You said no and impregnated her.
Right.
And wouldn't let her get an abortion. Like, you are the problem. You are the problem. But your way to fix it is not the way to fix it. Let her go.
Let her go. Or, like, have a conversation. Like, it just doesn't seem that hard to me.
No. Like, get her some help. Listen to the nanny. Also, the nanny. But...
Ugh. Like, it's clear in every interaction that I see with Hadley and Thomas that, like, she has just given up on interacting because she doesn't feel heard. And I get that. Like, it's so clear to me that, like, he doesn't give a flying fuck actually about, like, her or her feelings.
No. And because she's not, exactly said, she's given up. She's not cruel. She's not trying to fight. Like, she's just a being in his life, which I think is all he wanted.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So back to Layla. She's at a Labyrinth poetry slam event called Prompt Night, where essentially they're given a prompt and then they're meant to write poetry about it. And so Layla, of course, writes a poem about Thomas, about being burned just by looking at Thomas.
She refers to his blue eyes as fire-breathing eyes, and I couldn't get behind that because it didn't make sense to me.
All I could picture was Paul Hollywood's eyes, and I don't find that man attractive, so I can't with that.
I think those eyes are kind of scary.
They're very scary. There's like a husky with blue eyes, like unnerving.
They're kind of eerie because they give me the same feeling that shark eyes give me, just in a like adjacent way. They seem soulless.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So at some point, Layla slips away during the event, and Tommy follows her into a back hallway and pulls her into a storage room. And this dam of emotions that they've been trying to hold back breaks. Thomas asks Layla about unrequited love, whether she still loves Caleb, that Caleb guy, or not. And then she just kisses him. Just a small kiss, but he kisses her back, and then they end up like, they don't go all the way, but it gets super heated, and Layla ends up like coming on his leg in the dark of a storage room while he talks her through it and like gives her permission to stop fighting what she wants, which is not a good idea.
I just find it so odd. And we've kind of glossed over it because like we go on our own diatribes. They've had a couple like one-on-one interactions that weren't angry. Like they've been at the coffee shop and she'll like drink his coffee, hence why he knows about Caleb. But it also just feels very okay. I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I like the student teacher books, but it gave me so much anxiety that they're in this room with his bosses, his colleagues, all of his students. Like, go somewhere else.
I wondered if that was going to hit home for you because, like, as a professor yourself, like, you know the rules.
Yeah, and I know that's so, it's weird because I do like, not the way this is done, but I do like that trope. But then when I think about it in actuality, it's revolting. Like, it's horrifying to me because my students are like children. And it seems predatory and creepy. So, like, I do have this really stark line in my brain of, like, pure fiction and then in reality. So, like, this hit very reality to me. Like, I've been at events with lots of students and lots of colleagues. And, like, I would have a panic attack. Like, it wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be scandalous. It wouldn't be, like, titillating. It would be horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why it would be so much more interesting if either of them gave a shit because it would introduce some of that. But now
like
they're
if he
just
liked
like
his job,
yeah.
or she liked school.
But neither of them do. So it's really just like the stakes are pretty low, actually. The only stakes here are like his failing marriage.
Exactly. And like maybe his reputation that I don't think he cares about because he's a shit teacher.
Right. So after this tryst, Thomas tries to give Layla absolution for what happened, not just with himself, but also with Caleb. He tells her that some things aren't her fault. And then because we can't have nice things and she must also be her own worst enemy, she confesses about watching him through his window at home, specifically about seeing him with Hadley and that vulnerability. And I'm not really sure if it's the seeing him vulnerable or the stalking thing that gets under his skin, but he ends up telling her to stay the fuck away from him and leaves. Good.
It's so... the scene is so weird because she tells him, like, she says, like, I raped Caleb and he ran away. Also, I watched you and you right through the window. He's cool with the rape thing, but then the stalking is like where the line. And I'm like, okay. But I also don't understand why she chose to share that. I think for the character, it's intended to be vulnerability. For me, it would be that you're crazy. Get away from me.
I think it's like just indicative of self-sabotaging behavior, but I also have a suspicion that it's honestly not the stalking that like made him repulsed. It was the fact that she saw him vulnerable.
Exactly, because I think he kind of likes the stalking.
Yeah, I think he finds it flattering, actually.
Yeah. Ew.
Yikes. So anyway, that same night, Hadley leaves. She's packed a bag while Thomas was away and in the shower, and then eventually tells him when he comes out that she's going to her friend Beth's for a few days. Thomas stands in the hallway in a towel and watches her get into a cab. He knows that this time is different from before and realizes that this might be the beginning of the end of his marriage. Whoops.
That beginning already began, my guy.
Yeah, that beginning started when she said that she wanted a divorce the first time.
Yeah, which was over a year ago because she got pregnant after that. So like it's been a while.
Look, been a while. So a few days later, Caleb calls Layla again and again and again. And finally, Layla answers. And they end up having a bit of a long and painful conversation. And it's the first conversation that they've had in 2 years. Caleb tells Layla that he's been calling because he wondered if Layla would come to her mom's party, which he will be at. And she says that she can't. Read, she's not invited.
Explicitly.
She ends up apologizing for what she did, the rape thing, and he stops her and says that it wasn't her fault and he knew what was happening and that he wanted it to happen. She asks why, and after a lot of hedging, he finally says that he wanted to know what sex would feel like with a girl because he's gay. He knew that if he could ever fall in love with a girl, it would be with Layla, and he tried, and it didn't work. She hangs up, mortified and also relieved.
Okay, so I was really surprised by this revelation. I didn't think
Same.
that's what Caleb was going to say, and I thought that was a really interesting character choice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that she's just let off the hook for drugging and raping him because that's what she did.
Yeah. Well, and I like, despite the fact that he says that now, the fact remains that you went completely no contact for 2 whole years. And we talked about this in our debrief. Like, if you were so close that you were living together as a family when this happened, there's no way that Caleb didn't know about her subsequent behavior and crashing out, right? And so if you really thought that it wasn't a big deal and you actually cared about her, then you would tell her that sooner, which makes me believe that he doesn't actually think that and that it was rape.
Me too. And it was. And I mean, he kind of says like, oh, I used you too. And I'm like, not in the same way. Like, she straight up drugged you, my guy.
Yeah, right.
That's different than you guys using each other and then maybe regretting it, but it was consensual. Like, this wasn't consensual.
Right. And like, the other thing about this conversation that bothered me was like, not... Layla immediately makes it all about her because like they hang up and she's like, how did I not see this? I'm such an idiot. Me. Like, she doesn't spend any time thinking about how Caleb must have felt.
Right.
And I'm just like, okay, so this is really all about, it's the Layla show. It's the Layla and Thomas show.
But they're in their own shows. It's not even the together show.
No, like the other doesn't even have like a named part in the other show.
No, not at all. And I think that's what was so interesting to have this reveal about Caleb. Like, that's what I was saying at the top, even though I said it meanly. There's a lot of really cool potential. There is a lot of really cool potential for character arcs and development that like we just gloss over. And I know that's not the point of this book. It's not the type of book. But there's some interesting things that like could have been looked at. Like, I'm interested in Hadley's story. I think those stories should be told. I think stories like Caleb should be told. There's clearly a lot of shame there.
Right.
And self-discovery.
Well, and I also think that it's a miss specifically in Caleb's situation where she could have seen herself. She could have like had that moment of clarity of like, oh, I felt unrequited love for Caleb. He felt unrequited love for the opposite sex, right? Like, and to have kind of threaded that through a little bit and made it a little bit more human and made her a little bit more human. But like that just didn't happen.
Right. And I feel like there was just such a miss.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, like, as we're kind of talking through and analyzing this book, if it was a deliberate choice.
I know. That's why I would honestly really like to interview her, as long as she wasn't offended by my
dislike of her book.
Yeah, but I'm really curious because I really like a lot of the things she did, and I want to know if it was deliberate.
Yeah. Because even as we're talking about it, like we said, like, this isn't a poorly written book. I don't think I dislike the book. I just dislike the characters.
No, I have like 2 tiny formatting things that I'll mention when we get to our ratings, but like it is a well-written book as far as organization.
Yeah. So anyway, at some point after this conversation, Layla realizes that her notebook is missing, the one that she like writes poems in or whatever. And she figures out that Thomas took it. He stole it like she stole that book from his shelf. And so she goes to his office to get it back. Yeah, they both have Manic Pixie Dream Girl vibes. Hands down. So in his office, Layla tells Tommy that she's going to drop the class. And then he asks her to read him the poem that she wrote that night that they like fucked around in the closet. Like that non sequitur. That's how this happened. She's like, I'm depressed. I talked to Caleb. He's gay. I'm going to drop the class. He's like, would you read that poem for me? And she's like, wait, what?
Yeah, it's super weird. It's exactly like that. And it's as jarring for us as it is for you to hear that summary.
Yeah. And so this is the fire breather poem. And so she does that while he undresses her from the waist up.
Yeah, like really slowly. Okay, I have to listen. I don't know if it was comedic on purpose, but like we know this girl hates the snow. She dresses like they live in Antarctica. And throughout this scene, Thomas is undressing her. So he like unbuttons her coat and then she's wearing a sweater with more buttons. So he unbuttons that. And then she's wearing like another sweater with more buttons. Like she's wearing like 4 buttoned things. And I honestly thought it was hilarious.
I do too, because at some point he goes, more buttons?
Yeah. And it was really nice. And that things like that make me wonder, like, is this like, did you write these characters like this on purpose? Because it's kind of tongue-in-cheek in a lot of ways. Like, there's more. You have another sweater on? Jesus.
Right. Like, it's a little self-aware in that way.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to be real sexy, and you're wearing 6 sweaters, and they all have buttons for some reason.
Riddle me this. So he does finally get her completely nude, and he touches her belly button ring and seems to like that a lot. And so They're both turned on, and when she tells him that she wants him to sleep with her, he says, "Not today." He tells her that she should hold on to her naivete a little while longer. And this is where we get some of that like grown-up language that I don't particularly care for.
No.
But it's very clear that there's an implied next time in what he's saying, and that both of them feel that. Layla in particular grasps onto that glimmer of hope with a desperation that's honestly a little hard to watch.
It is hard to watch. I think that's what also made this so uncomfortable, but that level of uncomfort, I think, was perfect for the book. Her desperation to be wanted by anybody was really powerful. Like,
totally.
It made me physically uncomfortable for how desperate she was. And I think that's really telling of how good the storytelling really is, even if I didn't like the story.
Agreed. Yeah. And it was very clear in this moment that she was left behind and let down by literally every single other person in her life, which is what turned her into a narcissist, because she had to give herself the attention that she wasn't giving to other people.
Exactly. And that is a really interesting character arc.
Yeah, I agree. But that is where we're going to end our coverage of part 1. So join us in 2 weeks for our coverage of part 2 and our ratings. But for now, we did it. Those are our thoughts on The Unrequited part 1 by Saffron A. Kent. Thank you, as always, for joining us on this journey. Let us know what you thought on the socials. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, and Goodreads at Spice Traders Pod. And if you like our podcast and want more, consider joining our Patreon, where we release Patreon exclusive episodes on our off weeks. And if you really, really like us, drop us a review wherever you listen. Until next time, we'll see ya. Bye.
Bye.